Ask the Podcast Coach for August 9th, 2025.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that music that means it's Saturday morning. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from theschoolofpodcasting.com, and joining me right over there is the one and only, the very thirsty Jim Collison from theaverageguy.tv. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. There's nothing like a Saturday morning being awaken, I think is the right word, at like 5 a.m. by tornado sirens.
Oh.
So that's been my day so far.
Like Mom really used to make. Yeah. Oh, man.
Anyways, great to be here. Weather has passed. Everything is safe. Battery backup in place. We're ready to do Ask the Podcast Coach. Let's do it.
But the other thing is, even when those are done, it's not like, okay, well, I'll just fall right back to sleep, because you get up in a panic. I'm like,
yeah, you hear the sirens, and then I'm like, well, I'm up. I might as well go down and produce the podcast. So I got it done. I was done by like 6:30. Then you're like, what do I do? So I did some wiring. Of course, that's what I did.
As one does.
It's like sleeping. You can turn off the breakers. Nobody notices. It's all fine.
That's a good point.
It was a good time anyways.
Excellent. Well,
I'm going to need this today.
Yeah, I'm going to say, that's it.
I'm going to need this.
And that coffee pour is brought to you by our good friend Mark over at podcastbranding.co. The beautiful thing about Mark is, besides the fact that he is an award-winning graphic artist and he's been podcasting quite a long time, is the fact that you're going to get one-on-one service. He's going to sit down with you and figure out, hey, like, what's your podcast about? If you got an episode, he's going to go listen to it. He's going to do the work that sets him apart, because he's the marketing genius, not you. You're the podcast genius, and you know your stuff. And so Mark can sit down with you, and it's not just artwork that he does. He can do your whole website. If you're doing a lead magnet, he can do the PDF. Are you doing Talk at Podcast Movement? He could probably help you with your slides. Anything that is audience-facing, Mark is the guy you want to talk to. Well, where is Mark? That, again, of course, is over at podcastbranding.co. And again, anything you need to look good, Mark is the place to go. I'm surprised we never got flagged for that music. I mean, it's royalty free, but it's still, yeah. I'm like, well, we'll talk about that later. I got flagged for some stuff.
Oh, big thanks to our good friend Dan Lefebvre, who has not been flagged over there at Based on a True Story Podcast, based on a TrueStoryPodcast.com. This week, Trail of Vengeance, if you haven't seen that yet. Rob Hillard is the guest. Check it out today. Last week I mentioned, I think I mentioned this. He had Dragon last week, so Bruce Lee. So if you're into that, you want to check it out, you should check it out today, based on a TrueStoryPodcast.com. And Dan, as always, thanks for your sponsorship.
Yeah, I have permission from the band King's X. I have permission from the songwriter.
They don't
I got,
they don't know that though.
And I chopped the song. If You Go Tell Someone is the name of the song. And I chopped it to bits. And I said, can I play that? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. And I was like 99% sure that when they put out that album, they weren't on a label anymore. They put it out themselves. Well, apparently a label has bought that album, or something has changed. And I got a thing on Spotify saying, hey, we have flagged 3 episodes. And I'm like, 3? There should be about 300 that used that song. And it said, do you have permission? And the option was, you clicked on the drop down and it was like permission from label. And I was like, oh, it's the only option I got. I'm going to say I have one of those. And so far, nothing else has happened.
Yeah.
But
when was that? Was this week?
That was, I think, last week. Something like that.
It may take a while for all to work through. YouTube's pretty fast about that. Like, they have a pretty fast process. You get a form, you get to copy and paste some things into that form that kind of prove. This was a while ago. Maybe it's changed, but that was a pretty efficient process. And then you get back to it. It's Spotify. Okay, so I don't use Spotify, but do they have? If that happens, do they have a weird monetization thing that happens like on YouTube where they stop you're not allowed to monetize anymore? Or
I
did it go
know
to,
if you're a big shot smarty pants and you have bazillions of downloads, they do have an advertising, some sort of leg that you can get
yeah.
involved with, of which I'm not using. But I'm not really. I mean, worst case scenario, I just removed my show from Spotify. I'm like, that's okay. It's for the School of Podcasting. For whatever reason, it is a small percentage on Spotify. I get a lot of Apple and Overcast and Pocket Casts, but not a huge amount on Spotify. So that's fun. But let's play a fun game, Jim.
Okay.
The name of the show is Booked on Planning. What is the show about?
Well, I would think it'd be like project management things or maybe vacation planning stuff, something along those lines. I don't know. Am I close?
That's no. It's this is why I told them, I go, you might want to add a tagline, because for the record, I said the same thing. I'm like
Okay.
to-do lists and things like that.
Yeah.
It says, I'm the co-host of Booked on Planning podcast, and we're funded through the Nebraska chapter of APA, which is Professional Planners Organization, which is weird because you would think that would be PPO, not APA, but okay, just, call me a stickler for.
Well, Auditor of Public Accounts, APA, is that the right? Nebraska
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
Auditor of Public Accounts, okay.
It says, through this connection, we're applying for a grant to fund activities to help expand our reach, which has had steady but small growth over 3.5 years we've been hosting. On our show, we interview authors related to cities, design, planning, preservation, environmental issues, etc. And that's when I was like, if it's about city planning, you might want to add the word, I don't know, city planning to your name, because I would not have guessed that from Booked on Planning. It says, what else are we? We're thinking of trying to fund attendance to present table at design-related conferences. That would be a great thing. Do some Buzzsprout ads. This was in a Buzzsprout group. Apply for South by Southwest. And then they ask, are there other ideas that come to mind to grow your audience with a small grant or even free ways to do so? But to me, I think a new member of the School of Podcasting does a tiny, boy, I had it and I lost it. It's something, it's not farming, but it'll come to me in a minute. But anyway, she goes to a farmer's market where she sells her homemade, goat soap and all sorts of things that they make there on the farm, probably sell some eggs while they're at it. And so I said, well, when you go to these things, do you have some sort of little sign that you could make it, you print out a 8.5 by 11 that says, check out our podcast with a QR code. And she goes, oh, absolutely. And I was like, well, that's good. So anytime you can, again, a tiny homestead. .com is the name of the show. And so anytime you're looking for an easy way, it really does boil down to who is your audience, where are they, go there, and, make friends.
I don't think the title is as important in the niche as, we both struggled to find it. But once, for folks listening to this, this is a podcast all about city planning. And okay, I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm just kind of saying, like, boy, that's a pretty deep niche of going in, right? And so the title, the planning title, so to speak, I don't know if it's as important. Booked on Planning is the name of it. Don't know, because you're gonna have to reach your audience one by one through contacts and referrals and some of the, chances are in a scenario like this, you could do advertising. I'm not sure you're going to find that many people that way. Right. This would be a podcast where you'd go to conferences, you would work your connections around the country. You'd find other city planners. I think that's really what they're talking about there. So you could get away with a pretty niche-y title, and it's not gonna, I don't know if it's gonna matter as much. I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way. I think it could be, I might have said Booked on City Planning because that's probably, and maybe not, but I think they get away with it because it's in the niche. It's like those really catchy or cute titles that people that make no sense. It's like an inside joke, for the niche. You can, you can kind of, well, I think about our friends over there at Critical Role who, you don't know what that is. It's still giantly popular because it's catchy to the niche. And once they started getting out there, of course, I mean, they're voice actors. They have a lot of contacts. So they were already juiced before they got started. I'm not sure the title would have, if they would have added D&D or role playing or any of that stuff in there, not sure that would have mattered either. So I don't know.
I always look at it. What are people typing in trying to find your show? It's like the guy that names the show Inside the Dugout and then wonders why nobody, is finding a show when they type in baseball. I'm like, because baseball's nowhere in your title, in any of your episode titles. Like, you got a little too cute. Yeah. So Tom has a great idea. Just put a QR code on every egg. And I'm sure that's possible. I've seen where there's one company, EB, I'm like, does that stand for Easy Break? I always wonder what it is, but there's some egg brand here in Ohio that they have little EB on every single kind of egg, which is always interesting. Mark says that on his show, practicalprepping.info, we use some of Krista. Krista is his wife and co-host. Her original music, she owns the copyright, and yet he said, I keep expecting to get flagged. That's it. You don't want to make her upset. She's going to make you pay for the music for your show. And then Danny Brown from Captivate, Spotify flags often. Yes, they do. They're looking to move creators to Spotify for artists if they feel podcasts are using music too much. Yeah, there was a thing. Did you see my favorite thing ever, because you know me, I love words. And YouTube, on YouTube's channel, put a thing out that you can now swear in the first 7 seconds of your video, but you can't. Oh, I forget what they called the F word. It wasn't like major swearing, or it might have been strong swearing. And the guy actually said, you need to pick your carefully. And it was just the weirdest sentence ever to just go, well, when it comes to the word, oh, wait, I need this. When it comes to the word, you need to pick your carefully. And I was like, what? So and he just said it so deadpan. And when you log into YouTube in your studio, there's usually a channel there from YouTube. And so they're like, you can say hole, and you can say, that name that rhymes with witch. Those are fine swear words. They're not upper level, it's my favorite is George Carlin. He said that, you save that word to the end of the argument. It's like, hey, man, and the horse you rode in on.
Right.
So it was just weird to have YouTube say, and I guess it has to do with advertising because, of course, everything comes back to advertising. Sure. And I just thought it was odd that, like, okay, I'll sponsor your show if you say this one, whatever, insert. But if you drop the F word, well, yeah, exactly. Danny says, well, Buckariel, right. Well,
but they say even YouTube says in their guidelines, they say we may allow vulgar language when the primary purpose is educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic, and it isn't gratuitous, right?
Right, that's it. There's another fun word.
Yeah, and you're like, so it's still a judgment call. I mean, this is lawyer speak for judgment call. Like we can make that decision on what it is, right? For example, the title of a song with a curse word or a song that contains large amounts of profanity. Remember that giving context in the content, title, and description will help us and your viewers determine the primary purpose of the video. So, like, they've definitely left the door open for judgment in this scenario. Yeah. I listen to a bunch of podcasts, and they're cursing like sailors. So, then they're big podcasters, and they're. Yeah, I don't think they're monetizing because I don't know because I block all the ads. But I mean it's kind of they kind of leave it open.
Yeah, see, I just get worried because for me, especially the F word, that's a sacred word that I do say for the end of the argument, and I don't want to see it watered down to where like there's a second grader just dropping F bombs left and right, and I'm like, no, that one needs to have because otherwise, how are you going to know if somebody's really upset? Like, we're going to have to come up with a whole new set of swear words where going is now like, he said going. I can't believe he said going, or whatever,
Well,
so.
And let's remember, they're not taking you down for this. They're slapping the age restriction on you, which now requires that person to sign in and verify their age if they're going to watch your content.
Well, the other fun thing, speaking of, did you hear that Europe is now going to age verify so Spotify, I think it was YouTube as well. They finally deemed that YouTube was a social network. And if you're under 16, you're not, I don't know if you're just banned, which is kind of good. But I'm like, have you seen, like, I remember we put some sort of, when I was married, we put some sort of restriction thing that was supposed to restrict their time. I think the time thing, nope. Whatever it was like playing whack-a-mole because you're going up against, a 12-year-old. And we're like, okay, we want to, block his access to certain things. And what was funny is we installed it and we turned it on, like we logged in as him, went to Google and typed in boobs and just got boobs all over the place. And we're like, well, this is clearly not working. Because if I'm 12 years old, the first thing I'm going to Google when I get on a computer.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So my whole thing is, I guess you have to put personal information in to prove that you are over 16 or whatever. And I'm like, oh, good. Because, that's not going to get hacked and used in nefarious ways. And also, what if your audience is 16 and under? Like, not so much for kids, but like, it's pull my finger jokes and all sorts of, you're talking about K-pop or whatever. Like, you could lose a chunk of your audience because so I'll be interested to see. The other one is I was listening to James Cridlin, and it was something ridiculous, like 0.8, like a new release or a new podcast. How many are, a lot of podcasts get released every single day, like a lot, like a ton. So how are you going to police this? Who's going to go, hey, wait a minute, you're not 17. So it sounds, on one hand, I'm like, I kind of applaud because I really think social media is not good for kids. But on the other hand, I don't know. So I kind of go yay, but I also, when you look at the actual, what it would take to pull that off, I'm like, I think the genie's out of the bottle on this one. I'm like, I don't think that in every, I mean, I was at a birthday party last night and the little kids are, I don't know, 6 or 7. And how do you keep them, still while we're all sitting around talking like adults? You just stick a screen in their face. And I was like, okay, all right. Couldn't give them a toy or something to play with, but it's a toy. So, but those are 2 stories in the news that I was like, well, that's interesting. So Jim will have to clean up our act and not say, every 10 seconds. So
I know. I think I can count on one hand the number of times a curse word has made it into the show. This is not one of them. No.
Yeah. So we do have a question from Ralph, and this is a good one. We brought this up at the School of Podcasting because I realized kind of sometimes what Ralph is looking for is this, more name recognition. And he says, I want to get speaking gigs and guest appearance spots on TVs and other things. How would one go about doing that? Would you hire a PR firm? And that's what I asked. I was like, does anybody know either somebody who coaches people on how to get on TV? Because that is not, the only time I've been on TV was through, again, podcasts lead to relationships and relationships lead to opportunities. So I know Matt Rafferty, who does The Author Inside You, who also happens to work at Channel 8. And what was interesting is he got me on TV on Channel 3. So, birds of a feather flock together, and they were looking for a podcast guy. And Matt's like, I got the guy. So that's how I got on TV. But I don't know if there is a, kind of,
Yeah, there are, you'd get an agent of some sort, right? Now, you hear the word agent and you think of a television, an actor. Well, that may be one of those. They have all the inside knowledge and people to get the right connections. Like in your case, where a TV station will reach out to who they know in that space and say, hey, can you get me a podcaster? And then that person and their network would find them and provide them, right? You got to be ready to do it. You got to be ready to do it on a drop of a dime.
Yeah.
You got to be, you got to be good. You can't mess it up the first time, right? You got to be ready. Some of those kinds of things. In the space, I podcast with coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every coach writes a book. And you can, you've written books, Dave, but you've self-published them, and that's a lot of work, and it's really hard. If you want your book to go somewhere, you got to hire a book person who does this for people. Right. They're expensive. You're never going to break even on that book. Well, unless it's really good. I mean, it could be really good and sell millions of copies, but even in that case, that book will open some doors to do some things for podcasts and beyond things and keynote speaking. That whole circuit, right? I mean, it's as much work. I know lots of people on the circuit. I know it's as much work to get in and be on the circuit, and then you gotta keep it up. You can't ever take a break. Like the second you take a break, people forget your name. And so you're constantly working at this, you and then whoever's representing you or whoever you're working with. So you got to find, I don't have names. You got to find somebody you trust. You got to reach out in that space, find who's represented someone in this way and been successful with it. Just like in the podcast place, plenty of podcast gurus who've never even had a podcast. So you got to be careful about that. But
Which
I think
drives me nuts.
Well, it is what it is. I mean, it's just the nature. That's the nature of the beast. But there are folks who represent. So, those are some avenues. Folks pay somebody who knows people who can do that. In most cases, we don't know television people. Right. So we can't, but for someone who represents a bunch of people, that's their job to get you in. You're going to pay them to do that. Yeah. I'd find an agent for sure.
Yeah. Mark says, go directly to the show producers, especially local shows. That would be definitely, going right to the source. You never know. The fun part of that is you don't know how they want to be. That's where, like when you said, when you know somebody who knows what they want, like I know I on Monday's show, I interviewed Justin Moore for this week. And when I go, hey, I love whatever the name of this is, Awala water bottles, and I take a picture of myself going, I love your stuff. Like that sounds like a good idea, and send it to them. And in reality, no, they don't care. I mean, they kind of care, but they don't really care. Because Justin worked with all sorts of advertisers and brands, and he's like, yeah, that's he goes, it sounds good, but that's not really how they want to be contacted. Like that, so that's where when you deal with someone, Jeff C, I've been told agents aren't worth it, but getting inside speaking bureaus are worth it. Yeah, I think I'm part of espeakers.com. I forget how much it is. There are a few of those. So we'll see, but that it is one of those things. Here we go. Tom would know. A author of the book. The author is listening. The audience is listening. Do I not have my copy on my desk? Paul, what's wrong with my brain today? Tom, I hold up your book on a daily basis to people. A publicist is what you're looking for, he says, but you pay for what you get. Yeah, there's that whole do you know anybody that does it for free? Yeah, that's not a thing. So help a reporter out might be a source. Yep, that's still around. I got mentioned in the Orange County Register, which is a newspaper out in California, and it was like a sentence and a half, but that's enough to, grab their logo and put it on your website as mentioned on the Orange County Register. Or you could just make up a name for a newspaper, the Evening Gazette, or, and for those of you that are younger, newspapers are these things that people used to read. They were delivered to your house, and you could take silly putty and roll it on the newspaper. And do you remember doing that? Yes.
Especially the comics, right? The comics were the best. Yeah.
That was the best. I'm going to roll over Beetle Bailey. Do you have any idea of how to find the best one or how to even search for one without sounding snarky? Perplexity, Google, you might. I would ask
people who are in that space, people who are being successful this way, and saying, hey, would you introduce me to your publicist? Or
I know, Larry, Red Hat Larry, man, what is Larry's last name? I can see him because he's got black glasses and a big red hat. Red Hat Media. Larry. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he's got a guy or a woman, I don't know what it is. He has some sort of speaker person that goes out and gets him gigs, and he talks about AI, which, as you imagine right now, soon coming to Frosted Flakes. Now with AI, so that guy, and he's been on, Larry would be a good guy at redhatmedia.com, I'm going to guess. Why can I not remember Red Hat Media? I'm almost positive that's his website.
I'd email Pat Flynn to see who he's using. Pat's a pretty good guy and pretty responsive to some of those kinds of things. Let's see what he thinks.
Larry Roberts, there we go. Red Hat Media, LarryRoberts.com. And he is now kind of what you're talking about, Ralph. When they need an AI guy on the local news, they go to Larry. And I see him on in fact, if you go to LarryRoberts.com, which is good on you, DavidJackson.com, the guy has basically told me he's going to get a restraining order if I ask him to sell his domain again. He's like, please quit asking me. And there's nothing on it. That's what bugs me. I'd be fine if he had a nice website. Nothing on it. So I would reach out to Larry. Larry's a really good guy. He's a talker, just so you know. He's, as are most podcasters. But I see him doing what I think is what you're trying to do. And it's not as easy as it looks, but if you start now and start planting some seeds, then, you'll get some.
Yeah, I just Googled agents and publicists in Omaha, and it started giving me a list of breaking down who's available and what they do. And then, of course, like anything, you're just going to have to check them out, see what they've done, look for references, some of those kinds of things.
Yeah. I know being on TV was weird because they pre-interview you and they're like, okay, yep, you're going to come on. Here are the 4 questions we're going to ask you. And we have to keep it under 4 minutes. And what was weird was so you really have to practice. Like, I didn't want to memorize it, but I kind of had to almost memorize it. And I remember as I'm driving up to Cleveland that I couldn't do the same answer exactly the same because I'm Dave, right? I'm going to go ADD on you. And so I had to just tell myself, all right, this is not going to be perfect. Like, let's be okay with the fact that I'm probably going to botch this a little bit, but do your best and don't stress out over this. And I think I meant to say magazine and said newspaper or something or whatever it was, but it wasn't the answer that I'd planned. And so in my brain, I just went, okay, the pressure's off. You don't have to be perfect. You've already blown it. And I was fine for the rest of it. But it was just one of those where I was just, it was the first time I'd been on TV. Golden Opportunities. It's one of those Sunday morning shows at like 10:30 that you're like, wow, I've been on TV. And the only person that saw you was like your dentist that just happened to be up on a Sunday morning. He's like, were you on TV last week? And I'm like, actually, I was. He goes, I thought that was you. So, and likewise, it's a lot of this is it just looks good because John Lee Dumas back in the day was mentioned in Time Magazine as like one of the top 100 whatever things list, right?
Most handsome guys ever, I think.
Right.
That's what they said.
Influential. I don't know what was going on. And he said that that moved the needle zero, like nada. He goes, it came out and he goes, and then I appeared on Pat Flynn's show and he goes, and that moved the needle. So again, sometimes it's not about having the biggest audience. It's about having the right audience. And in the case of Time Magazine, maybe not a lot of solopreneurs reading Time. I don't know, but a lot of them were when they're going to Pat Flynn. So he was on the right audience for the right people kind of thing. And that moved the needle. So keep that in mind as well. I got one. Rich Graham gave us a question that I'll be
hold on.
later.
Tom Webster says, being able to speak in sound bites is key to getting asked back for sure. Yeah. And I think having things well practiced in the way you say them, like, is super helpful, especially in areas like radio and TV where the pressure's on. You got to say something in a short period of time, and there are in your space, you being what you do, in your space, there are ways that you can say things that are compact and efficient and yet practiced and timed, right? You kind of need to be a little funny too. You need to be interesting and funny, right? The people
Yeah.
like that. And so I have found as I speak at these various events and such, the more I can lean on some of my practiced content, doesn't feel practiced because I can say it in a way that comes across natural, that has natural timing to it and some jokes. I know in certain things, the way I say them, I do 4 or 5 of these presentations every week now for what I do.
Wow.
And yeah, and it's the same speech each time. It's done differently, but I know how these concepts are going to land with people. And so you have, I mean, listen, stand-up comedians don't make it up every time they get up there. Why should you? You should have your pitch practiced. You should have your content nailed. You should be able to go into a place and they say, talk to me we got 4 minutes. We're going to talk about this. Your brain should say, okay, I got 4 minutes. I got 2 things. I'm going to tell these jokes and this is how this is going to work. Right. And you go in and it sounds good because you've practiced it. And I just can't, newer podcasters or folks that are wanting to do media stuff or folks who want to be out front all the time think they can wing this stuff. Just wing it. No, no, you practice it, right? You get good at it. You have some things nailed down. It's just like when these comedians go on the late night talk shows.
Right.
That's none of that is natural. It's
Right.
all planned, right? It's all Craig Ferguson, maybe one exception because he would he would tear up the card and throw it away. He didn't care. But most of the time they're like, okay, I'm going to tell this joke. I want you to ask me this question because I'm gonna tell this joke, right? It's all rehearsed. So make sure you have your pitch, and not just a pitch, but I think you got to have a bunch of pitches ready to go, or a bunch of things that you've said that you've practiced, and you know the delivery, you know how to get there, you know how to land it. That's what makes you interesting to people, and that's what gets you invited back when you know your stuff. If you get there and it's a bunch of stumbling around, no,
Yeah.
you're probably not going to get invited back.
Yeah. Jeff C says, I've been practicing my talk at CX for 2 months. I will probably do my presentation at Podcast Movement about 30 to 40 times this week. And it's not to memorize it. What I have found, all I want to do is get to the point where I know what the next slide is. And then I time it because I never want to be that guy that runs over. But for me, I have found after about 20, my brain goes, oh, you know what would be a good joke here? Oh, you know what would be, this is a good story to fit here. It's like I've got the basement built. This is the 7 things that make you do blah, blah, blah. Then it's like, how do I make this entertaining and fun and stand out and blah, blah, blah. So, Tom says winging it is a disrespect to the audience. It isn't authentic. Yeah, exactly. It says hashtag cranky old man. Yeah, that's not good.
Well, listen, I've been around a lot of folks who do a lot of presentations, right? And I've gotten, the first time I've heard them, you're like, oh, that was amazing. I mean, that sounded like it was so authentic and so like they were there in the moment. And so like, and then a couple weeks later, I might have heard him again. Like I was so like, oh, I want to hear this guy again. This is going to be great. And you go the second time and you realize it's exactly the same thing. I mean, exactly. Jokes come at the same spot. They're said the same way, right? That the presentation is so good, it feels natural. I think when you're over prepared, it allows you to be spontaneous and it still be authentic and complete. And so you just gotta get it. The more you do it and the more you practice and the more you have some of these things down when you go to do them, the better they are. And I think people are more comfortable with it. Dave, you've been in a session, I'm sure, at one of these conferences where the speaker is either so nervous it's incapacitating them in some regard, or they weren't ready. And in the first 5 minutes, like they're not ready for this. And you feel embarrassed for them. And then you stop listening because you're worried about them. All of a sudden you take on their emotion. You're like, oh my gosh, they came, there's 400 people in this room and they're not ready. And you're embarrassed for them. Right. And then you don't hear a word they say because the whole time you're worried about the things they're going to say. So be ready when you get these opportunities to do this kind of stuff. Please, friends, be ready. when you go in, don't think, oh, I say this all the time, I can just kind of wing it. Don't
Yeah.
do that. Don't be that guy.
No, that's not at all. Chrissy over at Creating Great Grooming Dogs says, yeah, these are performances, so you don't want to ruin it.
They are.
Rich says, I saw Bert Kreischer. He spoke as if he was talking it, basically making it up all on the spot, like he just thought of it. But I'm sure that was well planned out.
All planned.
Yeah. Stephanie says, I was just invited to speak. Congratulations to a group of writers. Good to know that I will start working on it this week. It's about a month away. Yep. And this is where you can fall into a mistake. Cause like my talk at Podcast Movement is like the 8 ways you can monetize a podcast and which one's the best for you. Well, I've done that kind of same talk, monetization, 8 million times. And so, but this one's different. Like, which one's best for you? That's the thing that I'm doing different. And there's a part of me that could go, I just need to rearrange some slides and I'll change the title slide and we're good to go. I'm like, no, this is like this. And man, when COVID came and I could not speak on stages anymore, we saw business drop. I make a lot of connections and, it's a way to boost your authority to a certain extent because not everybody's standing on a stage. And also don't be a prima donna. So I don't know. I'd have to double check. But I know some of the stages are inside the vendor hall. So you're battling the sound of that. And you could go, like, no, you have a stage. And there are other places that people could go. So if you end up speaking to 7 people, treat it like it's 700 and, do the best you can. And, and maybe next year you'll be on the big stage. So it's one of those things that, it just takes a lot of work. Yeah. And for me, also, this is the thing, just after you do it enough, when it's about 5 minutes to talk, my hands, which are already pretty white, turn like Casper white and they start to sweat. Yeah. And it's like, I'm like, oh, look, it's 5 till. And the minute I start, I'm fine. It's just, and then I remember last year was the first year where I did the thing with everybody's got headphones on. And I was like, oh, this is, it is weird because especially if you're trying to be somewhat entertaining and you can't hear them laughing, it's a weird thing. So I figured it out. I spoke with one ear on and one ear off so I could hear if I'm doing a bunch of plosives and yet I could hear if they were going to laugh or not. But it was,
that's hard, Dave. That is hard when you're speaking to a group and you can't hear them. I've been doing these virtual drop-ins where you have 30 people on the call and I do this 15-minute presentation and I don't use slides and I try to make it funny. Hey, it's this guy they don't know. I'm dropping in for 15 minutes.
Right.
I got to make the greatest impact that I can in 15 minutes, right? On Zoom calls, when I go, we have local versions of these where there's people in the room and you can hear them laugh and it kind of feeds you, the jokes are great because, then they are settled in, right? If you can get them to laugh in the first 3 minutes, okay, this is going to work. They're listening. It's settled in. They'll also pay more attention. If they hear laughter in the first few minutes, they'll be like, oh, there's comedy in this. I should probably listen, right? I don't want to miss this. So they'll pay greater attention. But lately when I'm doing Zoom, I have to watch the screen to get the reactions. Right? I say a joke and then I'm looking around to see how it's landing with people to make sure it gives me, I'm getting the feedback that way as well. Cause it's really, I can't imagine being in a room with everybody have a headphone on and you're talking to them. They can hear you, but you can't hear them laugh. You can't hear that feedback from them. Right? I mean, it's super important when you have to, I think when you're talking to an audience, I don't know how these guys do it on a stage where they can't see. Like that's a whole nother level, where the lights are so bright. That's a whole nother level because I depend so much on body language and, eye contact, body language and laughter or some kind of even groaning as a response. It's we get that from the chat room, right? You and I, we live for the chat room. As we're talking, we're feeding off your comments, right? We kind of know what's landing and what's not kind of based on the comments and we can play off of those. So that's a form of that. I mean, that's kind of a form of that feedback as well. I can't go in blind. I wouldn't be, if it's a dark room and there's nobody in there that I can see, I don't know if I'm as good.
The weirdest thing when you're doing the headphone thing, like I remember I was green. Like if you wanted to listen to Dave, you turned your headphones to green. So I had a whole bunch of people in front of me that were green. And then like the next group was, I think, red. And then there was yellow or something. And what was interesting is I got all my green people right in front of me. So I'm giving them my attention. And then you would see like the random green person. I'm like, apparently the people in the yellow section are not holding their attention. They're like, well, let's see what this guy on this other stage is doing. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Jeff C says, look, I feel like barfing every time when he does his live show on Fridays. He goes, I always say, why am I doing this to myself? I am fine once I get going, but it takes, and that's, again, I think one of the byproducts of podcasting is you learn to go with the flow. Wait, batteries are dead on the P4. I guess I'm going to plug the Rode, pod mic USB directly into you just learn to go with it sometimes. And then you find out, hey, that might have actually been a better, workflow or whatever. Hey, I found my book. There you go. Tom, I'm almost up to 1,000. I think I'm 950 people have clicked on the link that I put here. I'll put it in the chat room. It's Tom's book is so good that when I type hashtag Webster, it puts out that book.
There's another book.
Here's a great thing, an example of a tagline, right? If I just said the audience is listening, we kind of know what that's about. But his tagline, right? A little guide to building a big podcast. Well, who doesn't want to do that? And it's if you haven't read this yet, what are you waiting for? I still say it should have been called Your Baby is Ugly, because that's kind of what he's politely hinting at.
This is a good example, though, Dave, of having that book, right? That people can point to, that it's helpful. Like you can't just write a book about nothing. It's got to be a good book to start with, right?
Right.
So people have to say, but it's one of those things. Then there's some social proof. Tom's been mentioned a couple times already. He doesn't hang out here every week. I mean, some, but not every week. But you are able to pull his book up and be like, hey, look at this, right? I mean, there's some of that.
So we kind of talked about this last week. So why do I promote this book a lot? Well, number one, it's really good. Like the content itself, it makes you think, and then you go, oh, I'm going to have to try that when I get done reading this book. Then you throw in the snark factor that is Tom Webster. That's just, I remember talking about using curse words. There's one where he's talking about curse words and he's like, honest, this is the last time I'm going to say whatever it was. And then he does it again and like, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot I wasn't going to say. It's hilarious. So, because let me go over to Rich Graham's. We were talking about how do you stand out. We kind of hit that last week. And did I not? Rich Graham sent me a link and I can't find it now. But we're talking about how do you stand out from other shows. So like I've read other books on growing your podcast, but in some cases they didn't give me strategies that I can try. It's a lot of theory, right? Oh, you should be better. Hey, thanks. Never would have figured that one out. But there are actual strategies in this book. Then it's entertaining. And he does it in a way, and this is where anybody who's an expert, when you can give you a strategy that the average Joe goes, I think I could do that. Like, not only am I going to read about it, but I can actually do it. That's another thing. So I cannot find it. I even put a pin in it, and either whatever I did, I cannot. Let me search for Graham. But there was a post. Unless I don't know if Rich can put it. I don't think you can put links in the chat room.
No, only we can. Yeah, unfortunately.
I will find it. I will run over to the School of
Podcast. Spaces or whatever if you want to.
Yeah, but it's that way. A matter of what makes things stand out, because there's a guy that does the 1 minute blog, and I have found it. Let me throw this on the screen. Here we go. And he says, so everyone has a podcast now. Who is this? Sean, so SHAAN.beehive.com, the 1 minute blog. So everyone has a podcast now. Martha Stewart, Barack Obama, Shaq, Snoop Dogg, all those equal podcasters. The CIA has a podcast. Bill Gates has a podcast. Your barista, my ex-girlfriend, and the homeless guy across the street have podcasts. Everyone has a podcast. But is the market too saturated? How do you win at podcasting in 2025? If Obama came to me and said, Sean, big fan, you've done 100 million plus downloads, you published 700 episodes, lightweight, Sean, anyway, give me some advice. Here's my podcast advice. Barack, listen, I've got good news and bad news for you, champ. The bad news, first, podcasts have a shelf space problem. Celebrities don't get this. They used to on Instagram, on IG, one user will follow thousands of people. It's infinite shelf space for fandom. But podcasts are so time intensive that the average podcast listener only typically keeps 1 to 3 shows in rotation. Not if you listen to Tom Webster. I think it's 6 to 7 in their latest Sounds Profitable, something like that. Says this means you need to crack someone's top 3. Imagine if Instagram only let you follow 3 accounts. You have to be incredible to be in their top 3. It would be super hard to build a loyal following, right? Welcome to podcasting. Now the good news, there's roughly only 3 ways to win in podcasting in 2025. So let's see here. Number 1, incredible banter. All right. If you and your co-host have incredible chemistry, being a fly on the wall while you hang out is fun. You can still win no matter the competition. I'm not sure I agree. I mean, I know a lot of people tune into Conan to hear him rip apart his staff, but I think that gig is old. But anyway, you then chop up your best banter moments and use that as TikTok, Instagram clips that can independently go viral. Okay. Examples, comedy podcasts. So The Basement Yard, Shane Gillis, Bad Friends, Friday Beers. Have you heard of any of these shows, Jim? I have not.
I have not, no.
Yeah, me neither.
Doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean,
I
yeah.
mean, they only have so much time. Yeah.
Well, here's that. He goes, if you're not a comedian, that's okay. You just need to have better banter, say that 3 times fast, than the average in your category. Number in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Okay. Or I like the other one. Dave Attell had a joke. If you want to find the quickest way to someplace, ask the guy with one leg. He always knows. Number 2, incredible expertise. Guests are huge for podcasts. Getting the right guest, so low supply, high demand, at the right time, so it's trending, is one way to win. Either the hosts themselves need to be such experts that we want to listen, or they pull top-level guests. Examples, Lex Friedman, Tim Ferriss, Chris Williamson. Stripe's new podcast? How old is this blog post? Because isn't Stripe going away? It's merging into Teams. Anyway, apparently their podcast.
You're thinking Skype.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, Stripe. And there we go. Too many between Stripe and Strike and Slack. Too many things beginning with S. Bonus, combine number 1 and 2, banter and expert access, and you get a Lollapalooza effect. This is why All In got so big so fast. So that's again banter and expert access. Number 3, you play a different game. This one I think is important. This is why TBPN, the something network. I should know this. TPB. What's BP?
I'll look it up. You keep going.
They treat podcasting simply as a way to farm short form clips. It doesn't matter if you watch their 3-hour show, as long as you saw 30 clips from them in your X feed that week. There's a young kid on Instagram doing this too. He turns his podcast interviews into 1-minute Instagram clips that get millions of hits. If you don't have a plan to have one of those 3, you're drawing dead in podcasting in 2005. And this is from Uncle Sean. So interesting. Here's
Uncle
Chris
Sean wrote this with AI.
Probably. But
no, it's a total AI post. Like it couldn't be any clearer AI out there. I mean, I'm sure there was some adapting in there going on, but
the only thing
clear. 3 things, 1 minute. Give me some stuff.
That could be. Yeah. Chris.
It's okay. It's all right.
Chris Stone from castahead.net says, how about 3 of the best clips? How about quality over quantity? In Tom's book, he mentions there is no quantity. It's all quality.
It's always quality.
It's always quality. Yeah. I'm not reading the book. That is the 1-minute blog post, which took me longer than a minute to read. So apparently I need to read.
Yeah, you read
Yeah.
it a little bit faster than a minute. Yeah, there's some good. There's some good tips in there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
from at the end of the day, right? We talked about this last week. At the end of the day, your brand has to be strong enough to attract people,
Right.
right? Either you're attracting them through comedy, they come and laugh. You're attracting them through information, they come and learn more. You're attracting them through a relationship, they come and feel like they know you, right? All of those things, that can be done. And who are you going to be for those people? By the way, you may be multiple for, there may be folks who know you, who they're there for the relationship, but there's others that come for the information. There's others that come to learn. And so I think all of those things roll up under the umbrella of helping people. Like, I think if you're really interested in people and you're really interested in helping them, and the stuff that you do makes their life better in some way, I think that is the key to all of this. Is how do we help someone do something, right? And entertainment is helping, right? Having them laugh. You say what? Laugh, cry,
Think,
groan, think, right? Those things.
educate or entertain.
Yeah,
And preferably more than one of those. Like if you can make me
for
laugh
sure.
while you make me think, well, then you get Tom's book. The audience is listening. And
if you think your content is good, that's great. But others have to think that, right? I mean, it's you convincing others that your content is worth listening to for any of those reasons. And so you've just gotta, if it's great if you think you're interesting, but the proof in the pudding is, do other people think you're interesting? And to be honest, for some people, maybe just a handful of people find you interesting, and that's okay.
And if one of them is mom,
well, even mom should be proud of what you do, right? I mean, some of those kinds of things. So it is, I think it's one of those kinds of things. And I also think it's interesting in the space sometimes too, that we always talk about these overnight success. It took 10 years to be an overnight success.
Right.
Sometimes you just got to put it in. You just got to put the time in, and then you have moments. And how you handle those moments, those breakout moments. Look at the Haktua girl, right?
Oh,
she had a moment, right? Now, did she take advantage of it? Absolutely, she took advantage of it. She was on every major network for a month. She did her own podcast, some of those kinds of things. Is that going to last? Well, if she has more than just the Haktua thing, maybe.
Yeah. Now that the crypto scandal has kind of died away, she is now trying to come back with her podcast.
Yeah.
But speaking of kind of Haktua girls, do you remember? Here's the thing that I've been trying to pay attention to, because this is the second time I've told somebody about this, and so there's difference between stuff like, I don't know, talking about the Cleveland Browns. Like, okay, who cares? But when you say, like, why did this catch my attention? So do you remember the girl, she was way obnoxious on Dr. Phil, and she was all about cash me outside, and everything was like, no, she was basically, do you remember when Cartman on South Park used to go, screw you guys, I'm going home, right? He was just, that was kind of her. She was like, I do what I want. Screw you guys, I do what I want. That was basically her. So she was known as the Cash Me Outside because she was saying, catch me outside. Like, if you don't like it, catch me outside. But because she was like, yo, 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 she was like, cash me outside. Well, the Cash Me Outside girl got an OnlyFans when she turned 18 and scored $1 million in 6 hours, right? So that's first one. You're like, wait, what? Now, and I don't know who this is, Lil Tay. Lil Tay is this she used to be Lil Tay. She was like 9. She had a big giant gold chain, and she'd be out like, yo, I got more money than you, and you're poor, and I'm great. That kind of rap stuff. And Lil Tay has grown up, and she did a whole thing where she's, noticing it to all the major influence. She even like tagged Joe Rogan on it, like, hey, should I start an OnlyFans? I turn 18 in, 48 hours. So this whole big thing, she turns 18, opens up her OnlyFans account, and the person that pointed this out to me was like, that means she had to take the pictures before, which means technically she was underage when the pictures were taken. But anyway, nonetheless, $1 million in 3 hours. And my whole thing is I go back to Chris Rock's routine about got to keep my baby off the pole. And I'm like, how do you keep your baby off the pole when they're making $1 million in 3 hours? I was like, that's cray. So that kind of stuff, I was like, okay, so why am I sharing that? Well, A, it's almost naughty because we said OnlyFans. So there's that naughty factor.
On the edge.
It's on the edge. And then holy cow, $1 million in 3 hours. That's crazy. And so it's not something you hear all the time. It's, I don't know what you would call outrageous in a way. So to me, there are things that you go, ooh, that's a weird fact. I might bring this up at a next birthday party, or, is this stuff that you bring up like, hey, did you hear that, so-and-so is going to do the thing and so sometimes I think the stuff we talk about on a podcast is helpful. It's good. It's educational. And it was kind of funny, but is it something the next time I see my friend go, oh, I heard this on a podcast. Now, when I was married, that phrase came out of my mouth on a really regular basis. We'd be, how was your day? Oh, it's this and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I heard this thing on a podcast. So-and-so did such and such. So I think that's something I'm trying to pay attention. Like, when do we share stuff? And part of it, I've said this before, is when it makes either you feel something by, ooh, somebody's going to love this. It's like giving somebody the perfect Christmas present, or how it's going to make them feel, or such and such. But I'm trying to pay attention to, why do we share stuff? And when is it, what's the difference between this is good content and this is shareable content? Because that's kind of what we're always talking about. Like, how do I grow my audience? Well, reports say that 70% of podcasts are discovered via word of mouth per Jacobs Media. So, there you go. And Chris is going to start his own OnlyFans now. That's it. Maybe I might do one for feet. Hey, here's my feet. Pay me money and I'll let you look at my feet.
Doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
I want to do that. No. You know what, Dave?
No one's interested in seeing your feet, Dave.
Somebody is. You never. Only one way to find out.
Well, that's true. That's true. You could try. You could try. It'd be interesting to see how it goes. You never know. It could go viral, or create a virus. One of the two. You never know. You never know what's gonna go on. Yeah. Yeah. You just don't know.
Can you think of the last thing you shared, or told somebody, or was like, oh, you should watch this, it's good, or
about a podcast, or about,
or anything?
I have a buddy that I work out with 5 or 6 days a week, and we're
good for you, my friend.
Yeah, that's a time we download, right? We get together early in the morning,
okay,
walk or whatever, climb stairs, whatever we're doing. And oftentimes we use that time to share, like, hey, how'd your day? What was yesterday like? And the little tidbits of things that we've learned from whatever is good opportunity for us to share together. Yeah, I think that's helpful. Is to have some kind of, I've also said I do a little AI download every afternoon, chat with the AI assistant and download and talk about some of the things that happen during the day. I find that to be a little bit helpful too. So, I'm trying to think. I couldn't give you one example. Sorry.
There are reports now that you can turn, and maybe you can explain. There's a way you can tell ChatGPT, like you tell it something about, like, I just want to talk to you kind of thing. People are using it for, like, as a mental health kind of thing, because, nobody's going to answer the phone if I call them. So I'll just talk to my phone, and
you can dial up or dial down the conversation too on some of them. Like, hey, be more encouraging or be more critical. There's a thing going on about AI right now where it's a little too agreeable with you in some cases. Like,
Jim, you're absolutely right. That's a really good point, Jim.
Yeah.
Great idea. Yeah. And you're like, you can tell it to be more critical in your prompt, or when you're talking to it, say, hey, I'd like your attitude to be a little more skeptical.
Can you pretend to be my wife?
God, you beat me to
it. There we go.
All right. Darn it. I was setting that up and then you just beat me.
Sorry. Well, who we never complain about? That's right. Where is the thing? Our awesome supporters. You can be an awesome supporter by going over to Ask the Podcast Coach .com/support or awesome. What's wrong with my brain today? So yes, askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And the show, we should remind you, is brought to you by the School of Podcasting, where you can get courses, coaching, and community. Use the coupon code COACH and join worry-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you go to askthepodcastcoach.com, well, that's on Podpage, and you can try Podpage by going to trypodpage.com. And if you want to check out, go look for Podpage HQ. I'll put a link in the show notes. I just uploaded a video, What is Podpage? So if you ever wondered, now it's 15 minutes, there's chapters in it, but if you're like, wait, what does it do? Like it's basically, I made that for people that sign up for a demo and then don't show up. So I can send them this and like, hey, I don't know what happened, but here's what I do in a demo. So, and if you need more Jim Collison, and hey, who doesn't, then go over to theaverageguy.tv and check out Home Gadget Geeks. And I am still not using, I put this slide in here because I was going to start using it and have, it's one of those things, this is a September thing now, but vidIQ, if you go to supportthishow.com/vidIQ, I hear good things about it, but I also know there are some things that people are using and going, hey, this is supposed to make me go viral, and it's not. So that's always a fun thing. But it's this time that we go to our good friend, the Wheel O Names. Yes, who will it be? Will it be John Muntz? Will it be Ralph from Financially Confident Christian? Will it be Craig from AI Goes to College? Speaking of speaking gigs, Craig just got asked to do a live podcast at an event about AI and education and that whole 9 yards. So who will it be, Max Trescott or the ladies over at Flame Alive? We spin the wheel, and survey says it is, I'm thinking Ralph. If it keeps going, it is the one and only Financially Confident Christian, hosted by Ralph Estep Jr. If you want to get your finances in order and get a little pinch of, Bible verses thrown in there to make you feel good and base your decisions on the good book, check it out over. You can find all of Ralph's shows, really, if you just go to askralph.com. He's got a bunch of other shows besides Financially Confident Christian. But Ralph, thank you for being an awesome supporter. And as we continue on, there we go. If you found, well, first of all, thanks to all of our awesome supporters. We do appreciate them all. People like Ed over at Sonic Cupcake and Glenn at Horse Radio Network and the Indie Drop-In Network. They're all there. And if this show saved you time or money, maybe saved you a headache, or we kept you educated, or maybe we just entertained you talking about OnlyFans and feet, well, then you can be an awesome supporter by going over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And you don't have to do the $20 value if you don't want to be on the Wheel O Names. You can just support in a way to say, hey, thanks. And Chrissy says, hey, I love Podpage. Yeah, it's got some, we added, now, I don't use these on this show, but you can add categories. That's always been in there. And now you can add category buttons to your front page. So if somebody goes and like, oh, this one's about finance, and this one's about this, and this one's about that, you can now add categories to your front page. So that's just a little baby update that has come along. I saw this particular question in the Buzzsprout. They have a Reddit group now, and I'm going to be on Buzzcast. I think it's next week. Looking forward to that with Jordan and all the people, Kevin, and the guy's name that I always want to say something else, but it's not Alvin, it's Albin. There we go. But they say, how did you get your first 100 downloads? We all start somewhere, and hitting the first 100 downloads is huge. Let's hear your most creative, desperate, or shocking tactics that go to that milestone. Was it from constantly bugging family? Please listen to my podcast. Sneaking your podcast into your friends' phones. Yep. Printing flyers, sticking QR code stickers on bus stops. That's not a bad idea. Or doing something totally different. This is a judgment-free zone. So tell us what worked for your podcast. So most of mine are in that category, are really old. Like, I don't know if they worked. Like, my first show was for musicians, and I bought a printer, and you could buy printable CDs. So you could print on the actual top instead of making a label and then sticking it on there. and it had my logo and it said free music marketing tips. And I had like a 2-minute promo. That was it. It was one track. And at the end, it was like, for more information, go to Musician School or marketingmusician.com. And so there was that. I used to go to bookstores, and whatever age I was, so let's say at the time I was probably 44, I would go into a bookstore. This was for my weight loss show. I would go to the weight loss section and I would put a business card on page 44. And the reason I did that is on occasion, I would be traveling around to speak, and I'd go into a bookstore and I would go to that page and go, oh, I've already hit this. I've already hit this bookstore. I need to go find another one. So there's that. I used to, let me think of what else I used to do. I'm thinking because I kind of do a show. I keep starting, and then I don't have enough time for another podcast. But I saw where I want to say Sticker Mule, you can get, those like yard signs that you put in, like you'll see somebody like, oh, this house is getting windows from Jim's House of Windows or whatever. You can get those fairly cheap. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what I should do is like put Akron Podcast, big old QR code, and stick them at those. We all have those intersections where the red light seems to go on for hours. And I'm like, somebody eventually is going to pick it up and go, you're not allowed to put these here. But if I get, a few people, and there's going to be enough people that go, wait, I've never heard of this, and point their phone at it. Or go downtown where they have thousands of people every Friday and stick a yard sign there that says Akron Podcast, point your phone at this or something like that. That would be kind of a guerrilla thing. Jim, have you ever done any kind of guerrilla marketing for any of your stuff?
No. My advice would be get a job. I mean, I know that sounds sarcastic, but I think podcasting about a product is the easiest, best way. Selling something, having merch, and I'm not talking about t-shirts and those kinds of things. I'm actually talking about product, helping people with products, support something, do something, resell something. I think it's a lot easier to have a podcast with purpose if you're selling something, right? Dave, you've got a book and you have the School of Podcasting, and you're selling those things. There's a good purpose and reason. At Gallup, I podcast around Clifton Strengths. It's a great thing to have some purpose around. It creates endless amounts of content that people find interesting. Yeah, it puts me in a little bit of a niche. I think about my buddy Dave Garofalo over at Two Guys. They're a cigar shop, right? They talk about it. It gives them purpose. There's things around it. I think that's a great. Can you have a podcast without that? Yeah, a lot of successful podcasts. So around products, right? And so I'd get a job.
Another one I did was I'd go to the Apple store and bring up Apple Podcasts on every single laptop that they had in there and bring it up to the School of Podcasting. I would also subscribe to it. I don't know. I could never figure out, is that going to count as one subscriber because they're all on the same IP, or is it going to count each laptop? But that way, they always had some sort of screensaver or something so that when somebody moved the mouse, School of Podcasting was the first thing they saw. And I'm sure the people at Apple were like, oh, here comes that guy again. Keep him away from the laptops. That was another guerrilla thing I used to do.
Listen, I found, Dave, that those tactics, they're fine. They're fun. Go do them.
They're fun. That's right. It's a fun activity.
Make sure you turn it into a fun activity, right? But it doesn't really get the listeners that I wanted. Right. I for Home Gadget Geeks, I am creating a nice, helpful community of individuals who like to talk about technology, don't take themselves too seriously, and want to help each other do that. That's the kind of community we want. We've landed in a really nice spot of a couple hundred, 300, 400, 500 maybe, folks that want to do that. And I'm not interested in blowing that thing out to you get your Discord group any bigger than a couple hundred, and then you just got to start managing attitudes,
right?
And I'm not interested in, for my group, this is what I want again,
right?
So so I kind of keep it. I feel sorry for the Pat Flynn's of the world, or the John Lee Dumases, who have to deal with people who don't matter to him, and they have to hear their opinions. Like, I feel bad because that shouldn't be a thing. Like, people say things they shouldn't ever say in contexts where they don't have any idea what's going on behind the scenes or what's actually happening. And then they feel like they're right. And you're like, no one should have to deal with those kinds of attitudes all the time. I never wanted that. Like, it's just like, no, not interested. I want people to be helpful, and I want them to be nice, and I want them to be kind to each other as well. Not just me, but I want them to be kind to each other. We got a great group of individuals here that are kind of that way as well. So I just was never interested in the general marketing, like, hey, I'm begging people to come and listen. Can you just listen for a second? No, I wanted individuals who are like, man, I get a lot of value out of this. This means something to me because of this relationship. Then they tell somebody else. That's what I want, because the quality matters more than the quantity to me.
Yep. Mark says, back when we used to pay bills with checks, I would include a card in every bill. I also leave them with tips. Yep. When we eat out, has to be a good tip though. Yep. I've done that. I've left a business card mixed in with the sugar packets. I've done that. Stephanie says, what about bookmarks at the Akron Public Library? Yeah, that would work until they, figure it out and kick out. Let's see. Bulletin boards at the library and by the bank. Yep. Anything like that. Again, the thing I love about that kind of stuff is, pin your QR code to a company bill or a community billboard. The beauty of that is a business card is maybe 3 cents, something like that. And maybe 5 if you actually bring your own pin, and it takes 5 seconds. Now, granted, it may or may not. It's not going to give you 10,000 downloads, but it answers the question, have you done everything you can to grow your show? Like, yes, I even put up, especially if it's a local show. That's Mark says, I once booked 6 clients from a card posted on one of those boards. So you never know.
Yeah, for sure.
Another question we had that came up.
Stephanie had one in chat, by the way, if you missed it. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. If you go back just a few minutes, she had a question.
If you see it, go ahead.
Back here.
Here we go. Still haven't received any replies to my summer survey. Any ideas on how I can give it Any ideas on how to give it another boost? Should I pivot and just call it a general survey instead? Well, summer's still going, but you got to promote it every episode. I know when I was promoting mine, I had, because I use Captivate, I had a little like 10-second ones. Hey, if you get a chance, go to schoolofpodcasting.com/survey25. And then in the middle, I had a thing. Hey, this is Dave again, just reminding you, really, you're helping me make the show better. And I'm glad you brought this up. I got a story about this. And then, even at the end then, like, hey, the episode's over. You're probably looking for something to do. I got an idea. Go to schoolofpodcasting.com/survey25 and fill out the survey. It only takes a minute and a half. So yeah, you just got to keep, because it's a bummer. I sent out an email this week. So I've been working with a coach, and it was funny because there were lots of things that he's like, so tell me about your welcome sequence, to which I would go, what's a welcome sequence? And he's like, oh, okay. So I now have a welcome sequence. And he's like, well, how did your last campaign perform? And I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I always have a thing at the end. It's like, hey, if you need help, here's the School of Podcasting. He's like, but you never like do a campaign where you explain the world is going to end if you don't start a podcast. And then it's really, really going to end. And then, you agitate and that whole marketing stuff. I go, yeah, I've never done that. He goes, so you don't sell with your newsletter? And I go, well, no, I put the little thing at the bottom that says, if you need help, here's the school. He's like, yeah, no. So I did one of those. And I had like 6 things that went out, and they're all like, this is why you need to join this. And I was, I brought back something I haven't done in a while, which is where I teach people live. Podcasting in 6 weeks was the name of it. And I had some people sign up, but not a ton. And I was like, okay, all right. So he said, all right, send out a survey and ask them why they didn't buy. And I was like, because it sounded like, why didn't you buy? And he's like, no. No, obviously, maybe they don't want what you're selling. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, hey, thanks so much. If you noticed, I sent out a campaign the last couple emails, and some of you bought, thank you very much, and some of you did not. Like, if you got, like, I have 4 questions. If you could help me, you're going to help me shape the content of this newsletter and the podcast. Let me know what you need. And I think that went out to a little over 1,000 people, like maybe 1,100. And I think the last time I checked, I had 18 replies. So I'm not sure what the percentage is of that, but it's not great. But I got 18 replies. And the thing I found out was a lot of people are not, like, I assume everybody on my email list is a beginner. And some of them are beginners, but because they're launched, they think they don't need me. And I'm like, oh, I need to start promoting the fact that I can help you grow your show, and we can brainstorm some things, and I can audit your show. Like, somebody this week had a thing on their website, and they had the kind of what I call a show player, where you get one page and you go, here, go to my podcast, and you've got 6 players in a little box, 6 episodes. And I go, yeah, that has zero, almost negative SEO. I go, have every episode have its own episode or its own, blog post, et cetera, things like that. And so it was just interesting because I found out, oh, my audience didn't buy it because I suck, because that's, of course, the first thing you jump to. I'm selling things they don't want. Like, it's literally like, why isn't my audience growing? Oh, because what you talk about on the show, the people you have attracted, either you're attracting the wrong audience. So hey, I'm attracting people who've already launched. They've been doing it 3 years, and now they want to monetize. And I'm going, hey, I can help you launch your show. And so it's never a bad idea to get feedback, because I was like, oh, it's one of the things Justin Moore said in the episode that's coming out Monday, and he's quoting, I believe, Nelson Mandela. He says, you either win or you learn. Like, that's your 2 options. You either sell some stuff or you learn why you didn't buy, so that you can then turn around and change things and reword it so that people will buy it. So it was just one of those things we kind of get worried about. Like, if I ask for feedback on something that wasn't exactly positive, like, oh, they're just going to dump on me. And I'm like, or you could learn why it didn't work, So that works with kind of everything. If you're trying to get something done and you're like, oh, why didn't it work? Oh, I forgot to flip the phalange on, and, or whatever it is. And you're like, oh, and then you go back and you flip the phalange on and it works, great. I didn't know that. So don't be afraid to ask your audience. And sometimes, we've talked about this, sometimes they give you feedback and you go, oh, you're not my target audience. And in this case, I have an audience. I'm giving them stuff. They go, yeah, I don't need that. It's like when the Volley app came out, and they had a free version, and then they had a paid version, and they're like, oh, our paid version is going to be amazing. And they go, okay, you guys have been using this for months. Here's the new features that you can pay for. And we went, don't need it, don't need it, don't need it, don't need it, maybe, nah. And so they went out of business, and now they've come back, and they just started paying for their free stuff. And we're all just like, take my money. But sometimes, it's not that it's bad content. It's not that it's the delivery. It's that the people you have attracted are not who you're looking for. And at that point, the choice is, oh, I thought I was attracting people A, instead of attracted people B. Do I either A, change my marketing to go find where people A are and go, hey, there's a podcast over here for you, or do you change your information to match the people you actually attracted? So I just thought it was interesting. I haven't looked at my survey. I was going to do an episode on this, which I kind of just did, but it dawns on me, though, that if I were to talk about the results, who cares, like, that so-and-so wants this longer and, like, the actual details of it. But the bottom line is, I'm just a huge fan of surveys, and it's not the end of the world to get feedback, because then, one of the things that gave me test anxiety when I was in college is I started doing my homework, and I was actually trying to get good grades. And so I would get a little anxious to where my brain would kind of freak out, because it was one thing to get mediocre grades because I wasn't really trying. I was just kind of sailing through college. But now I was trying, and what would happen if I actually tried to get good grades and then didn't? Well, then I'm a big dummy. Well, it turns out if you did the homework and read the book, you actually ended up on the dean's list, but it's weird sometimes. Like, oh, if I try, some people might, I might not like what I'm doing or whatever. Like, no, it's feedback. Like I said, you either win or you learn. Another fun. You have anything to add to that before I move on, Jim?
No, I think that's good. I think we're
from,
we're in this space there.
From a survey guy, I'm like, yeah, never do a survey.
Yeah.
Well, here's one that says, how important are the aesthetics to you when it comes to creating a full listener experience beyond great audio? How much do things like podcast art, video visuals, equipment design, and consistent brand style factor into your show? I'm exploring this in my next podcast series and would love to hear your thoughts. Drop me a comment or DM me if you'd like to, if you've got a strong take. And I used to think artwork, especially episodic artwork, and it kind of, as always, it's a podcast question, so it depends. But I used to think, it's nice if you got the time. And now that I work at Podpage and I see people where they're showing their artwork for every episode on the page, and it's the exact same thing, that it's not a horrible look, but it looks much better if it's different. It just, especially if it ties in with the theme of the color scheme of the, your artwork or whatever it is. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, let me do this. This was Podpage's website of the week. And it was simply because, and this is why I said it's simple. There's nothing crazy on this site, but here's their artwork. It's got this light blue. It's got a little bit of gray. And so they tied in this kind of dark greenish color. And it just, everything here ties into this. So there's nothing where all of a sudden everything's bright yellow. It's super simple. They've got professional photos for their author pictures and such. It's not somebody did this on a phone, and then they've got an about section, and then they got their email. But to me, when I just came to this, I was like, oh, wow, this is a simple, like nothing, like they barely tweaked the theme, but just because there was a solid color scheme, I was like, that looks just, I don't know what I want to say smooth, but it just looks planned maybe, or it wasn't random, but I was like, I like the look of that. And so for me, when somebody asked, does it matter what stuff looks like? On video, of course, your thumbnails are all that in a bag of chips. That's half your well, I don't know about half, but a big chunk of your views and such can be tied back to the artwork. So you have to put in some time. And that's the one that I really suck at. I'm always going into Canva and just doing what's good enough, et cetera, et cetera. But,
Dave, I think everything in your brand matters, right? How you determine to be, how people perceive you is important. Now, how you go about it is up to you, right? And what you put out there and how it's perceived is up to your audience. And you've got to, you can't underestimate the power of personal brand. That's what people are attracted to. It's what people are coming for, your personal brand, right?
Right.
You're all listening here live. For those of you listening live, you're here because you like our brand. And many of you come out every single week and you hang out for the banter or the comedy or the train wreck or whatever the value that you're coming for. Certainly many of you have already heard everything we have to say. So we've been doing this a long time. There's nothing new under the sun. We said it all. Maybe every once in a while there's a new tweak, but you're here for our brand of community. That's what we've built here, is that community brand. You come out on Saturday mornings because you love it, right? You love to be here. Some of you listen to this as a podcast. You won't join us on Saturdays. I don't know why. I'm a little offended, but you won't come. No, not really. You come out. You listen to us as a podcast. You do it on a weekly basis. We get some pretty good numbers that way. Numbers that we're happy with. But something about the brand has attracted you to that, right? So as you're thinking about your podcast, what's the brand that you have? What are you? Why are people coming to listen to you? What is the brand that you're doing? For some, I think of Home Gadget Geeks. If I came up with individual album art for each post, would that change anything? Yeah, it might. It actually might. I might attract some folks who like to see that. I've always had a hypothesis that I speak mostly to tech guys who don't care. So I don't spend a lot of time on individual album art. It's just not something I do. But the brand part of it's important, right? The brand piece, I want people to see the colors. I've got the Home Gadget Geeks logo. I guess it's up over here. I want folks to see that color and go, yeah, up here.
There it is.
That way. There we go. And say, oh yeah, I'm at Home Gadget Geeks. I know I'm here. This is a recognizable symbol, right? I put that brand everywhere because when people see it, I want them to say, oh yeah, we're at Home Gadget Geeks. So it's everything you do is your brand.
Yeah.
So
Chris says your message first, clear audio second, and everything else later. Yeah, I kind of get that. It's kind of what Jim said though. It's I've mentioned this a few times when I was at the event in Chicago. Greg from RSS.com said you have to figure out what you want to be known for because yes, you're a podcast, but you're a brand, and your brand is when people know what you're known for. So, I remember once I was at a Christmas party with my wife, and the guy came up and said, "Hey, you're the podcast guy." So that's my brand. I'm the podcast guy. I'm like, okay, I'll take that. The other thing I'm confused on is Coach Dave leaving us? He goes, I guess I need to find a new show to watch on Saturday mornings.
I think he's joking.
It's like,
I hope not.
Don't leave.
Coach Dave, we like having you out here on Saturdays.
Yeah. There you go. He says, yes, literally dialed in to get my mind off of choking to death. Well, don't choke to death. I've almost done that. That's no fun. He says, Jim and Dave, you complete me. Well, there you go.
Did we have you at hello?
We had you at, as the podcast coach, which was, an hour and a half ago. So Chris says, great points on brand from Jim. Too many times people think brand means fonts, colors, and logos. It's so much more than that. Yeah, absolutely. Those are the things like, I know Daniel J. Lewis is working on some new thing. And whatever it is, I'm like, I'll go check it out because he typically doesn't make junk. You know what I mean? I like his, oh, wow, my brain is just not here today. He's going to kill me. It's the thing, pod influence. Is that it? Is that right? Pod? Nope. But he made up a word. It's so, I'm not moving on until I remember.
Oh boy, we could be here a while.
Yeah, that's right.
Does that help?
I'm going to the Audacity to podcast, hoping that he mentions it on his show. Let's see, gear and tools. Nope, not there. It's pod. He made a word with pod in it, but that's about half of the podcast industry. Yeah, for the record, Daniel, there's no mention of your show or your product under gears and tools. He should have an option there for software. It's pod. Well, here, if I type in pod.
Podgagement?
Podgagement. There we go. Okay, I knew. I was like drawing a blank. So speaking, getting some podgagement. Jim, what are you podgaging with your audience this week on Home Gadget Geeks?
Nice segue. I like that. Good work. Aaron Lawrence, Tech Gadgets International, joins me, and we spend a little time talking about some of the reviews she's been doing. I didn't realize Ninja, the Ninja coffee makers, and so they make an ice cream maker now where you can get your own soft serve. Yeah, so that we cover that plus a whole bunch of other gadgets. It's a great episode. You're going to want to see it today. She is working to get her 100,000 subscriber on YouTube. So all her links are on my site. If you want to go out there, check it out if you like it. She's a good one to follow for reviews. You can check it out today. HomeGadgetGeeks.com.
There you go. On the show on Monday for the School of Podcasting, I'm interviewing Justin Moore, author of the book Sponsor Magnet. If your goal is to get sponsors, like I know I have a book on monetization, this is a deep dive, which makes me sound like I'm AI, but it's a thorough looking at the topic of sponsorship. And he talks about how you don't get sponsors, you go out and find partners. And I did something that I don't recommend, and that is I walked him through his greatest hits. I was like, I know I should do a different interview, but my audience probably hasn't heard maybe his greatest hits. So I walked him through a lot of the questions. I asked some people, like, what would you ask him? And it was, kind of the same old questions. How big does my audience have to be? And what price should I use? And I was like, okay, he's answered those before. But I'm like, so I don't expect Justin to share this, but I do think it's a really good interview. So if that's something you're looking at. And we will be here next week. Let me double check. Yes, that is the 16th, because the week after that, I will be at Podcast Movement. And thanks for sticking around, everybody. We'll see you next week with another episode of Ask the Podcast Coach.